What's up? It's Revz. In about 5 months, we're all going to be playing a game called Project Motor Racing. It's a new game from Straight 4 Studios, formerly the devs of Slightly Mad Studios and Simbin. These are the people that made the GTR series, the Need for Speed Shift series, and the Project Cars series.
With all due respect, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm extremely excited for this game, because it seems to be taking a lot of inspiration from the career mode of Grid 2008 for its single-player experience. If you ask me, Grid 2008 is one of the greatest racing games ever made, and although I don't expect Project Motor Racing to have its cinematic arcade style, I do expect that having Grid 2008 as the basis for the career mode is an extremely good idea. TLDR, there are going to be 3 regions, America, Europe, and the Pacific region, each with their own preferences of what they like to race in those areas. You're going to start with a set amount of cash based on your financial backstory. You'll have to buy a car, start a team, negotiate for sponsorships, and race your way through the season trying to stay in business as crash damage and entry fees pile up. All the while you're trying to move up the ranks buying faster cars. The AI cannot be manually adjusted, you cannot restart races after you start them. The whole idea is to make you start thinking like an owner-operator race car driver, and I think that is a fantastic idea. The reason I'm making this video, especially at this early stage, where we don't really know that much about the game yet, there's a handful of things I'm concerned about, and I've had the privilege of talking to a handful of developers on the official Project Motor Racing Discord channel. They've given me some insights on how a few of their systems work in greater detail, and today I'm going to lay out a few of the problems that I saw, and hopefully suggest some potential fixes should they be willing to listen to me. Keep in mind, we're about 5 months away from launch, so nothing I'm going to suggest is massively invasive, at least I hope not. My main goal with this video is to help the developers flush out the replayability factor for this game. First, let me explain how I intend to play this game. I intend to play this game a lot like I played Fallout New Vegas. I want to create a unique character with a unique backstory and unique traits using the tools the game gives me to personalize the experience as much as I can. I want to play this game again and again and again, seeing how far I can take some of these loony characters I have in my head. So with that in mind, let me explain my fear. From what I understand, so far as speaking from the developers as of July 5th, 2025, Project Motor Racing currently has a very strict and rigid economy. Very little in the game is dynamic, with the only economy modifiers so far being the location of your HQ and the sponsorship model that you select at the beginning of each season. At this point, that doesn't surprise me. It would be the only way to balance the game to make sure that everyone who starts the game doesn't soft-lock themselves and have a way forward. Of course, the main dynamic factor is going to be based on your performance as a driver, which it should be. From what has been said so far, the game has been balanced so that if you go out in your first race and total the car in practice, that could be your career over, just like it is in real life. That is exactly what I want. However, my fear at this juncture, with the relatively limited knowledge I have, is that very quickly players are going to develop metas on how to move through the career as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I think even before the game publicly launches, you're going to see titles for video. The best way through Project Motor Racing, about said Project Cars. Project Motor Racing's career mode. And it's going to be a very clear-cut guide of buy this car, enter this race, finish this position with as little damage as possible, rinse and repeat until the season is over, and then buy this next car for your next season. This is something that's inevitable with any game with an extremely controlled and fixed economy. It's going to take away a lot of the experimentation, the fear, the uncertainty, and the fun that's going to come from going through career mode. Some people will just be very annoyed that there is an optimal path and that they're not doing it. They won't be able to roleplay as someone else. So here's my idea for a simple fix for that. As mentioned before, a developer has already confirmed to me that as of right now, the car prices in the game are static. The only modifier is the geographic location of your HQ compared to the brand's HQ. So if you have an American racing team, all the American brand cars are going to be discounted a certain amount. It's very simple, very easy to understand. What I would like to see is that after the first season is complete, Every season there's an update where the prices of the car will go up or down a certain percentage of their original price. Basically, it's a randomizer for the price of every car in the game. The idea is that will stop those guides from being created, because the price of the car they may recommend, which may be the dominant car in the class, may go up 20% from Season 1 to Season 2. But a cheaper underdog car may drop 20% to the point where it's an irresistible purchase. So what do? Do you delay your decision and try to get into the dominant car, not knowing what the next season prices will be? Or do you just go ahead and jump in the cheaper car and take your gamble, basically? It's a really good idea. It's very similar to what Gran Turismo has done with the used car dealership, and it will put a slight emphasis on and importance on car collecting and ownership. It may be, or it very likely will, make getting the dominant car in a class a lot more difficult, and I think that's a good idea for the long-term playership of the single player of this game. I do think that there should be a minimum and maximum price. Obviously, you don't want a Mazda MX-5 randomly being $250,000 or something crazy, but I do think that between those minimum and maximum prices for each car, I think on a season-by-season basis, it should be able to float freely between those two values. One other thing I feel I should bring up also is some dynamicism in regards to the tracks and how they're used in the campaign mode. A lot of video games just have a checklist of races for you to do, and these races never change. WRC by EA is probably the worst example of this, where season after season, year after year, the tracks never change, so you end up running the same rallies over and over and over again, the same layouts of the racetrack in the case of other games. So it gets repetitive. It feels like there is less content in the game than there really is, and that's something I really hope they're able to avoid. Race Driver Grid has a really good system where I think every year or two, the tracks in each championship will change. At the bare minimum, the layouts that are used will change. Previous games in the developer's roster, like Need for Speed Shift 2 or GT Legends, did a really good job of giving you a massive amount of events that took place on, or took advantage of, every track and every track layout to the fullest extent of their capabilities. That's really what I want to see. I either want there to be a very large amount of events for us to do, or if there is a small amount of events, for those events to be randomized in such a way that it makes sense. That way that the replayability of the game, again, can continue long after your first playthrough. One of the biggest flaws of Project Cars as a series is that the most interesting events with the most interesting cars and tracks have no meaning to your overall championship, because they are inherently invitational events. They don't have any meaning outside of you just showing up to do them because you're bored of driving whatever it was you were driving. That's something I really hope they avoid, because GT Legends, Need for Speed Shift 1 and 2, they both did a really, really good job of maximizing the content they were given without just kind of shoving it all over there for you to do later. Everything you did in those games means something, where in Project Cars, it really didn't. The one thing I want to stress, should the developers watch this, I really, really, really do not want another sandbox game. I don't want just, here's a giant buffet of content, you figure out what to do with it. Here's a very short campaign with a checklist of events where nothing meaningful happens and there's no real challenge. You either complete the season and do well enough to get it up a contract, up a tier of racing, or you don't and you have to go back down. That's not what I want. I want there to be stakes. I want there to be stress. I want there to be odds. I want there to be something to make this game a lot more compelling. It really does seem like they're going down that path, which is why I and many other sim racing enthusiasts are very, very excited for this game. Please, Straight 4 Studios, do not blow this opportunity. Thank you. Have a good day.
Looks like there's one on your tail. Start defending your position. Cover the inside line in the braking area.